Okay, so here we are at the final episode of the season. You see an eerie look at the city itself. You see complete darkness. You see fires going off, and honestly, it reminded me a lot of when we had a hurricane here I'm from Houston, Texas. So we had a hurricane a couple years ago, Hurricane Ike, and the days leading up to the hurricane and about a week after reminded me exactly of this scene. Complete darkness. All the power was out in the city, pretty much, and nobody was in the streets. It was so desolate. It was creepy. This reminds me exactly of that moment. So I'm getting like some PTSD flashbacks right now or something. So Madison and Travis are back at their house, packing up all their stuff because now they know about Operation Cobalt. So they're trying to get the hell out of there as quick as they can. Chris and Alicia get back to the house and they're wondering what the heck's going on. So they're filled in and they're pretty much saying, well, we're sticking to our plan, the one that we had before. So we're going to get the hell out of here, head out as far as we can. Daniel's pretty much getting ready to kill Andy, who is a soldier that he was torturing. Travis sees that. He tries to convince him as much as he can just to let him live. Andy starts pleading, I can help you. I can help you. I can show you where they're at. Yes, you know where the building is, but you don't know exactly where they're at. And Travis convinces, Daniel to let him live. Madison, you can see that there's some tension there between him and Madison because of that decision. So in turn, she tells him, okay, well, he's going in your truck, and you can see the look in their eyes, like, you're not thinking right. Madison's pretty much telling Travis mentally, I guess, okay, you're responsible for him then. And then we got to remember at this point, yes, we know that Nick is there in the holding cells, in I guess you could call it an infirmary type of place, but they don't know that Griselda's dead at this point. We ended the last episode with Griselda being killed because she passed away because of the infection. As they're out there packing their cars to take off, Madison looks around. She sees a guy with a dog just walking his dog. She tells Ophelia, which is right next to her, they don't know. Basically alluding to, maybe I should say something. Maybe I should do something. Ophelia has no remorse whatsoever because she feels like, okay, they did nothing whenever they came for my mom and Nick in the middle of the night or whatever. So, they're on their own. Which in a way, it's those moments where as a viewer I'm torn because, if you put yourself in that situation, you kind of want to say, that's true. Fuck them. In all seriousness, fuck them because they did nothing. But at the same time, in a morality stance, me personally, I wouldn't be able to, live with myself if I just didn't say anything. So it's, the show's doing a great thing right now at making me feel torn, in my morals, I guess you could say. For the life of me, I cannot remember the doctor's name, but the doctor starts talking to Liza back in the infirmary area, and she's telling them that, pretty much they're calling for evac, for evacuation. She starts asking about her son, and the doctor pretty much says, well, okay, I put in the request, we're working on it, but you can only take your son, She said, well, what about the rest of my family? She's like, okay, what are you talking about? Like blood or like just bond, And at that moment, you see Liza kind of, again, torn because she feels like her son is there, but yet her ex-husband and his family and Daniel and his family are all there too. So she doesn't know what to do. She then proceeds just to tell her, okay, well, I want my son. It's like, okay, well, is that it? It's like, well, my son needs his father. So Travis too. Okay, that is not going to go over well because Travis has a life of his own. He has his girlfriend and his girlfriend's family. And, I wouldn't think, with the way Travis is, Travis would not just go willingly by himself and leave everybody else behind. But you see that moment where Eliza's thinking about Travis. So there's still a connection there. You know, as everybody else is leaving, you know, Travis is getting Andy out to the car, who's a soldier again. And Andy starts pleading with him, cut me loose, you know, cut me loose. And Travis like, get in the car, dude, get in the car. It's like, cut me loose, get in the car, bro, get in the car. And, you know, it's just one of those moments where you see Travis, you know, he's thinking about it. And then he goes and says, there's no story with me not ending up dead. And then that made me think. I'm like, you know what? This guy's right. You know, either way, he's going to get shot. You know, he gives him all the information he can. He's going to die by somebody. And either way, you know, it's a lose-lose situation for him. And you can see Travis contemplating that. And again, putting myself in that situation, you know, I felt like, okay, you know, if I was Travis, I would see this guy, I would feel for this guy because of what he's been through. And I would be like, okay, maybe I should let him loose. But at the same time, if you think about it, this guy's been tortured, you know, in a way that nobody really gets tortured normally, which is getting skinned alive. You know, he starts getting skinned, maybe not majorly his arm, but still it has to be painful. And, you know, of course he's gonna want revenge. That was my first thought. Was like, if this guy gets let go, he's gonna go after somebody, namely Daniel, of course, because he's the one that did it. So, you know, it's one of those, you know, moments where Travis is like, I don't know what I should do. Should I be the good guy, or should I just tell him get in the fucking truck, which he pretty much ended up doing. You know, and again, as they leave, they're taking off, they're driving away out of the compound, out of the safe zone, and they're looking around and they're seeing all these families just sitting down, having dinner by candlelight because there's no power. And, you know, you can't help but just feel bad because, again, nobody knows anything. You know, all they know is that they're there. For all they know, the military is still around the area, and they don't know that they're going to be exterminated pretty much at 9 a.m. So it's a moment where they all are kind of looking around and battling with themselves in a way. Now this is where things get a little crazy. You know, they leave the compound, they're heading to the infirmary area, the hospital, makeshift hospital, and you see Daniel just walk up to a guard post, you know, like very natural. And the guards are telling him, hey, guy, you, man, stay back before I shoot you. And Daniel, very calmly, I might add, tells him, hey, you might want to save your ammunition. And then proceeds to just walk off a little bit. And then looks back, and there's a herd of infected, you know, coming their way. And the guys start freaking out, obviously start guns blazing at them. And it was, you know, that was a very cool moment. They kind of pan up the camera a little bit and they show the actual herd, and there is a lot of them. So again, as an assumption, you know, you can assume that Daniel went to the arena, cut the chains, and like they said on the Talking Dead, you know, special after the finale, was he was basically like a Pied Piper of the infected. Now, the one thing I do wish was that they would have shown him go over there, even if it was just him walking up and cutting the chains or something. That would have been a little bit better to see in a way. They just kind of just had us make the assumption and just cut to that moment. I just hope that isn't like a trend and they just keep, you know, cutting out some of the stuff and just let us assume things. Which would be very disappointing if they kept doing that in season 2. And then you have all the adults heading into the makeshift hospital to go find Nick and Griselda. They leave Chris and Alicia behind in what looks to be like a parking garage with the cars and no weapons, no nothing to defend themselves from anybody or anything. Now, I don't know how smart that was. You know, I was kind of yelling, I guess, at the TV. of sorts. And it's one of those moments where, okay, you're leaving 2 teenagers by themselves to guard 3 cars, I believe that they have, and you expect them to just be okay. I know that they did say, yes, if something happens, just drive away, drive off. But what do they have? They don't really have anything with them. How are they going to really fend for themselves? I really wouldn't put any stake on them surviving very long if things went south. Strand and Nick are together still in the holding cell, and then gunfire starts going off, and Strand tells Nick it's time to leave. So he starts looking for the key everywhere. He's like, where's the key? Where's the key? Nick has the key. And he, very casually just gives it back to him. Pretty much giving him, the hint that, look, I can pull the wool over your eyes too. I'm not just some stupid junkie that doesn't know any better. So I feel like, there was kind of like that moment of mutual respect in a way. You see the doctor again, and she's, again calling for evac, wondering where the transport is. She sees the helicopter. She starts talking to him and basically realizes that they're not going to stop. They're not going to land because of all the infected that's starting to, to overtake the compound. And she, after kind of some back and forth with them, she turns around and just tells everybody, look, you guys need to go. Go while you can. I will take care of the patients. And when she said, I'll take care of the patients, or I'll take care of, everybody else here, my eyebrow kind of went up a little bit like, okay, you're going to take care of the patients. Back in the parking garage, Chris and Alicia, hear something coming or hear someone coming. So they go ahead and they duck in one of the vehicles there. And they show Strand and Nick, they got out. They're walking down the corridor of all the, the holding cells that they have there. And people are yelling at them, let me out, come on, let us out, what are you doing? And Strand just keeps telling them no, And Nick is over here telling him, what are you doing? Like, let these people out. And he pretty much tells them, these people, if we let them out, they're going to hurt us more than they can help us. Which, again, this is one of those moments where you have to like throw yourself in that situation, and in a way, in a morality standpoint, again, you want to be Nick, and you're like, okay, well, let all these people go. But at the same time, in a survival standpoint, if you let these people go, what if they bum rush you? What if they just completely, kick your ass and just leave you there, bloody? It's a cat and mouse game, really, with yourself, and trying to see what is the right thing to do, what should you do, what should you not do. We see Chris and Alicia still in the vehicle hiding. You hear whatever it is starting to get closer, and then all of a sudden the window breaks, and it's 3 military guys wanting to steal their car for transport. They're telling them, give me the keys. They're saying no, obviously. One of the soldiers there starts to try to push himself onto, Alicia, and obviously Chris gets pissed off, starts kind of charging at him, and Chris ends up getting beat up. And the thing that sucks is that you knew that this was going to happen, where, as soon as, like I said in a previous video, that as soon as things went to shit, the military was going to act like they could do whatever they want, especially now, since there's no command, really. They can just try to bully people around and get what they want, which, pretty much that's what they're doing. Liza starts leaving the building that she's in, heading to board a transport to get out of there. The infected bum rush, the gate, and they start getting in. And this is one of the best moments in the season so far, and one of the most gruesome, which I really loved. I'm a big fan of that kind of thing, big fan of gore. And you see a soldier get bit across the neck. He's holding his neck, and he knows he's pretty much done for. He heads over to his guys in a helicopter, and he's, kind of like, I guess, reaching out for help. They say, hey, he's infected, let's leave him. The guy goes directly, as soon as the guy passed him up, I was like, oh shit, it's gonna happen. I know it is. He headed straight for the back helicopter blade, and just walks straight into it, and his head just splattered everywhere. I had a feeling that was going to happen as soon as he passed up the guys, and it was pretty surprising. It was a perfect way of showing the drastic things that people will do just to not become one of the infected. And I think that was, one of the best scenes in, like I said, the season so far. Strand and Nick are still trying to escape this compound, so they head down a hallway and they close the double doors behind them. The camera pans over to the left a little bit, and you see a keypad up on the wall. The keypad turns red and beeps, and pretty much it signifies that they got locked in. They end up in this area where they see a soldier getting eaten by an infected. Strand casually just walks up there and sees that it's the guy that he was making deals with, the guy that took his watch, the guy that took his cufflinks, and he tells him pretty much that you're on your own. So he takes the cufflinks back off of him and takes his gun, and then that's when the more infected break through that area. So they start heading back where they were. Madison, Travis, Daniel, and Ophelia reach the holding cells where Nick was. They realize that he's not there anymore, and they go on and they release everybody that's there. One of them tells them that Nick is taken off with a guy in a suit, the guy Strand. So they go on and try to figure out where he is. As predicted, Nick and Strand are back in that hallway where they were at. They get stuck because the doors are locked now. Strand and Nick, they're doing what they can to keep the infected at bay, and they're starting to panic. You can see it in their faces. They're starting to panic. And obviously, when it looks like there's no way out, Nick looks out the little window in the door and sees his family, down the hallway. He's yelling for them, "Mom, Mom, Mom!" They come running. Liza shows up out of nowhere, I don't know, and starts trying to swipe her card in the key card thing, and it's going boop 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 and then beep, and it opens the doors. They get out. My thing in that moment was that, okay, you get out of that area, you should have turned around and close and push. You have about 5 or 6 people there with you. You should have done what you could to just push those doors closed and lock those things back in there, But instead, the infected came running through, and they kept hauling ass out of there. They started heading through this kitchen area to get out of there, and in this moment that they're there, it felt a lot more like The Walking Dead than any other moment in the season. They show them fighting these things off and doing whatever they can and using whatever they can to kill these things, and it was very reminiscent of the original Walking Dead series. After they get clear from that area, Daniel starts asking Liza, "Where's Griselda?" They thought we forgot, right? He starts asking her about Griselda, tells her, "I'm sorry, she passed because of the infection." Ophelia starts crying and asking, "I want to see her, I want to see her." Liza just straight out tells her, "There's nothing left to see." So you kind of, as a viewer, you assume, what happened from there. They head into the infirmary area where the doctor was, and they see that all the patients there have been shot in the head. They see the doctor kind of sitting down there, just kind of, I guess, in her own thoughts, and she's telling them there's nowhere to go. They're telling her, "Let's get out of here," and in turn, she just goes ahead and says, "Look, where are you gonna go? Everything is there's no way to escape. I have an escape route. I will give it to you. Good luck. There's nowhere to go." Strand then in turn tells them, "Okay, there is a place to go. We can go to my house. I live, right by the beach, man. Let's just head out there. Let's just do our thing." Then they head outside and they see huge piles of ash. And this is what Liza was alluding to before when she said that there was nothing left to see of Griselda. Pretty much they're burning all the bodies, which in a situation like this with infection and something like that in quarantine, that's kind of what they have to do. You see Daniel and Ophelia reach one of the piles, and they're just, Ophelia's just like crying her eyes out and bawling. She's breaking down. Daniel's pretty much staying strong for her, obviously. But this is kind of the weird part was that right where Ophelia's crying, they kind of pan the camera down. They show a body burned to the bone, basically, nothing but bones left, and they show the foot missing of a body, and they show the other leg, and it's a full leg, basically saying that this body was of Griselda. Now, to me that felt a little cheesy, just because it just so happened that they stopped right at that moment where they saw that body, and it was right on top as well. I mean, they've burned so many bodies. I know she was kind of one of the last ones, I guess, to turn, which I guess you could argue that fact a little bit, but I just felt it was a tad bit unnecessary to have that in there. They should have just shown the ash, and that was it, and we would have, I guess in that case, the assumption of what happened would have been better than what they actually showed on the show itself. They head back to the parking garage, and Chris and Alicia pop out of nowhere, say that they're okay. They let them know what happened, that the soldiers took the car, and then Andy pops out of nowhere. Pretty much exactly like we all thought, like what I thought, after a while, in the beginning of this episode, was that he's going to want to exact revenge, and that's exactly what he wanted to do. He had a gun in his hand, he was pointing at Daniel, and then what did he do? He did not shoot Daniel, but he did the one thing that would pain him the most, and that would hurt him the most, torture him, per se, was he shot Daniel's daughter, which is pretty fucked up, because that was the girl that he liked, or he was kind of involved with a little bit, but at the same time I'm sure he felt betrayed as well. And then you see Travis go fucking livid. He just goes apeshit. You see shades of Rick in a way, when he goes nuts, and he was just wailing on Andy, and he just like beat him to a bloody pulp, to the point where the next time that they showed Andy on the floor, his eyes were swollen shut. He was barely recognizable as the guy that he was before. And you just see that there's a moment there where they show Travis, put his hands on the truck, and they're just shaking, and that's real right there. I saw that, and I was like, man, I'm glad that they put that in, because that is a real reaction. You get so mad, especially if you're not like one to be a fighter, if you're not one to fight a lot. Like me, I think I've gotten into one or maybe like two fights in my life, and after the fact, you have so much like adrenaline pumping through you that you're just like shaking, you're trembling, and I'm glad that they put that in there. I was when that happened, I looked over at my wife. I'm like, that's real right there. That's some real shit. And then the other thing too was that they showed him beat up Andy so much and so bad, they didn't show him die. Could this guy come back at some point? Just like I the way I feel about Moyers, Lieutenant Moyers, I feel like this guy's gonna come back at some point too. Could Andy, show up down the road? Should he show up? Could he show up somewhere next season? I don't know. But there's always that possibility. Just like the kid in the first episode, Tobias, I believe his name was, the kid at the school with the little knife. I feel like he could show up. I think he could be a great asset to this group if he shows up down the line. They're all packed up, and they're heading out in the vehicles. There's a part where they're going down the empty basin that they showed, I believe it was in the first episode, where Calvin got killed. They're heading down that way, and the way the camera is, it's like at a top view, but kind of going, showing everything forward, and it pans up a little bit and shows a city, and that was very reminiscent of The Walking Dead, of that main stretch of road heading into Georgia, or into Atlanta, I should say, that Rick took on his horse. I felt like, that it was kind of like a connection in a way of that same type of scene. They get to Strand's house, and everybody starts getting comfortable. Nick and Madison are kind of like just standing outside of a patio area, and Nick just kind of he goes and says something that is really a major point, I think, for this show. He kind of says, well, it feels like I've been living this my whole life. Everything has been day to day for me, and I feel like everybody else is playing catch up. And that kind of resonated with me as well, because I was like, okay, you have this guy that he's a drug addict. He kind of goes from place to place, doesn't really have a home per se, and then he says that, and I'm like, you know what, that's very true. This guy knows what it's like to be just out and about. No set place to go, and now everybody else is in that same situation too. And then throughout all this stuff, Liza goes and just kind of grabs her son Chris and hugs him and tells him that she loves him. And they leave that scene on her for a moment, and something's up. There's something going on, obviously, that she's not saying. And next thing you know, she just kind of heads out quietly. You hear the door open, and Madison, looks, and she's not there anymore. She goes after her. She starts walking down towards the beach area. Travis then sees Madison take off, and sees Madison at a distance heading towards the beach as well. So he goes and follows her. Then they show Strand packing up all of his stuff. Nick goes up to him and asks him, well, what are we going to do? You're taking off. Where are you going? Can we stay here? Strand tells him, I got to keep moving. We got to keep moving. Nobody can stay here. Nick then asks him about Abigail. Who's Abigail? Where is she? Strand goes out, opens the door, goes out to these big, high-powered binoculars, and tells Nick to, come over here. Let me show you something. Looks through the binoculars and sees a big old yacht in the middle of the water, and that is Abigail. In this show, Liza, heading to the beach. She gets to the beach. Madison follows right behind, asks her what's wrong. Liza just lifts up her shirt and says she got bit. Madison, is kind of in denial about it. Liza said, well, there's only one thing that needs to happen. So she pulls out the gun. She's like, no, there has to be some other way. She, tells her, you have to do it. I thought I could do it myself. I can't. Travis can't do it. It'll break him. And that kind of thing. And Madison says, I can't do it. She's like, well, you said that you told me to do it for you if that happened to you. So I need you to do it for me. Travis shows up. Madison has a gun in her hand. Travis is kind of like, well, what's going on? I don't understand. Gives him the info. He starts freaking out, saying, no, we can save you. We have antibiotics. And she lets him know basically the situation of it. That sure, the bites don't, kill, but the infection does. So eventually she's going to get sick. She's going to die from the infection, and then she'll turn. Travis puts his hand out for the gun, and Madison gives it to him. That was one thing I didn't understand, that they went ahead and let Travis, grab the gun when everybody had just agreed that it would break Travis if he did it himself. Ultimately, he does it. They hear the gunshot. They don't show it. You hear the gunshot in the distance, and everybody's kind of like ears just perk up. Like, what was that? Chris and Alicia go to the beach side, to the shore, and there's no audio at this point. There's only music, and they show Chris crying over his mother, which is very heartbreaking to me. That the Griselda death didn't really, I hate to sound like this, but it didn't matter to me very much, because we didn't get to know Griselda very good. With Liza and the rest of the crew, we got to know them a little bit more, even though it's only 6 episodes. I think everybody was a little bit more attached to Liza, she dies, and that's it. That's the big death of the season so far. I knew one of them was gonna die. My guess was gonna be Travis. I know there was a couple of people that commented on a previous video that said possibly it was gonna be Chris, but now we know for sure it was Liza. And how are they going to move on from this? They show Travis crying his eyes out. on his knees at the beach, and then there's this moment where they show Madison's hands just kind of wrap around Travis and embrace him, and that was a very powerful moment, because then that just shows right there that they are going to be stronger than ever because of all this, and because of this thing that happened. They're going to come out stronger than ever. But at the same time, you see on the other hand, you see Chris crying over his mom. Travis had to do what he did, and I feel like the relationship is going to be strained between Chris and Travis from now on, at least for a good while, until Chris understands. This was a great season so far. I loved it, and it ends right there. It doesn't end like on this like crazy cliffhanger or anything like that, but it ends right there. Great season so far. Like I said, if you haven't watched it, yet, I would suggest watching it now from the very beginning all the way to now, back to back. At least you get a better grasp of the story. I know there was a couple people complaining that maybe it was a little slow in the beginning and stuff like that. But again, what do you expect? It's the beginning of the apocalypse. You can't have people just killing other people right off the bat. You have to have the characters understand what's going on, and the humanity of them starting to crumble, and their morals starting to crumble little by little. I think that's the most interesting part of it. I think season 2 is going to be even more interesting, because if they end up getting on that yacht, where are they going to go? There's so many water. There's so much open water that they could go anywhere, as long as they have enough fuel, I guess. But that leads to a different set of problems. Now, I don't know as far as I don't think that they will be on that yacht very long, or maybe they might fast forward time a little bit and land them somewhere else. On the beginning of the second season, that would be kind of cool. I'm kind of weird about the time jump things, but I think in that case it would be okay. So we'll just have to see where it goes from here. They did just launch Fear the Walking Dead Flight 462. It's like an online web series that they're going to be showing also like little segments, about like a minute and a half segment each one during commercial breaks of The Walking Dead. The first one's already out on AMC.com. So check that out. I will be talking about that one in another video. I know it's only a minute and a half, so I really can't say too much about it. But I'll be covering that as well. So again, thank you for watching this video. I know it's probably going to be a little long as well, but there was so much going on in this episode that I just, again, I yap sometimes. But comment, like, subscribe, and I do appreciate you watching this again. And look forward to more videos coming about Fear the Walking Dead Flight 462. We will see you next time.